CBS 6 News starts now with breaking news.
Fire destroys this multi-family home in Troy. Breaking this morning, we're live as the cleanup efforts are now underway, and we'll tell you about the road closures still in effect.
Plus, the CBS 6 weather alert tracking plenty of wet weather which has moved in overnight, and in some cases freezing rain falling, which could lead to a slippery start across parts of the area. Close look at the radar coming up.
And getting ready to vote on a health care replacement. We're breaking down the key similarities and differences between the GOP replacement plan and the Affordable Care Act.
But first, we want to go back to the breaking news out of Troy this morning, where now several people are homeless after this fire.
The Troy Fire Chief says it happened around 1 o'clock this morning at a multi-family home on 4th Street. We do have a map to show you this morning. You can see the area that we're talking about. It is near Ferry Street, just east of the Troy Public Library.
A crowded area for sure. CBS 6's Carrie Beals there live and talked exclusively with someone inside the home when it caught fire. Carrie?
Yeah, Jack, those people, they live on the 3rd floor, and they tell me they just barely made it out, along with some firefighters who went in and then actually had to come back out because the flames were so bad. This is what the scene looks like right now. The fire is contained, and everyone did make it out safely, but a very different scene just a couple hours ago. We have some video of what it looked like when this home was fully engulfed. The Troy Fire Chief tells me that there are now 4 or 5 people displaced in this multifamily home at 168th 4th Street. He tells me there was concern the fire could spread to other buildings, but they were able to contain it to just this one house. We spoke with Jean-Pierre, who lives on the 3rd floor with his mother, and he describes what it was like trying to help others get out.
Barely have my pants on, and I grab my mom's hand, and I'm dragging her down. I'm telling her, I'm like, oh, come on. So I start dragging her down the stairs, and all the lights in the building cut off. There's a little girl and a little girl and a lady on the 2nd floor, and we're telling them, come on, you got to go. The building's on fire.
And Pierre, he did help all those people make it out safely just in the nick of time. He tells me his bedroom was up in flames. You probably saw it just in the video right there. Right now, they are still investigating the cause of this fire. 4th Street is still closed down right here in this area. Now, coming up in the next half hour, Pierre describes what it was like, what really woke him up. It was a sound. So I'll have that interview coming up the next half hour. Reporting live in Troy, Carrie Beals, CBS 6 News. Back to you.
Carrie, thanks. Something we'll stay on top of for you all morning.
All right. Right now, though, we do want to take a look at our Freihofer Skycam. This is downtown Schenectady. You can see the street. This is State Street, just glistening right now because the roads are definitely wet. We want to send things over to meteorologist Alyssa Carapriest with a look at today's forecast.
Hey guys, good morning, and much more of that wet weather to come throughout the day. Make sure you dress for the rain today. Pack the rain gear, and it's going to start early this morning, continue all the way through tonight. In some cases, I'm tracking some freezing rain. It's the pink you're seeing on the radar here. Mostly across the higher terrain, Taconics and Berkshires, you're seeing freezing rain. Portions of Bennington County, Fulton County as well. Immediate capital region seeing plain rain, and our temperatures playing a key role in what kind of precip you are seeing. We range from the lower to upper 30s, so the higher terrain a little bit closer to freezing, and that's where the freezing rain will be more likely the next couple of hours. But 36 right now for Albany to start your Tuesday off. We all switch to plain rain around daybreak or so, and it continues off and on pretty much all day long. A slow climb into the 40s, and will eventually top out in the upper 40s going towards this evening. It's also going to be breezy throughout the day as well. Much more on the rain. I'll tell you when it's all going to finally kick on out of here coming up in your full forecast. Guys.
Time now 5:04, back in the breaking news center this morning where severe weather hit several parts of the Midwest overnight. Just take a look at the damage. This is brand new video just into our newsroom this morning of some of the destruction in Missouri, just east of Kansas City. The National Weather Service says at least 2 tornadoes touched down in the state. Several homes have been damaged and shelters have been set up for people in need. The storms also blew through parts of Kansas. Several planes and cars were damaged at one airport in Olathe. Now, you can see the windows clearly just blown out of this car and the extensive damage that was done to the airport hangars from these storms.
Coming up on 5:05, we have a traffic alert for you this morning. If you'll be in Schenectady County at about 9 o'clock, the New York Department of Transportation says an oversized shipment from GE will be making its way from Schenectady to Otsego County. State police will be escorting the truck as it moves slowly along major roads and highways. The route's going to start on 890 Service Road before heading to 337. From there, it's going to meet up with Route 7 in Rotterdam and then turn onto Dunsville Road. Then the truck and all its escorts will go onto Route 406 and US 20 before getting onto 7 again in Duanesburg to get on 395. Then it'll take Route 20 to Cherry Valley. So if your drive today takes you along any of these roads listed on your screen, DOT says expect some delays.
The way you dial a phone number here in the 518 is about to change. Starting next Saturday, March 18th, the state is implementing step 1 of its plan to introduce the new 838 area code. Here's what you need to know. Starting March 18th, you'll have the choice of dialing 518 before the 7-digit number each time you make a call. But in August, 10-digit dialing will be mandatory. The state plans to use the 838 area code starting September 19th. Now, you could be assigned the new area code for a new phone line or if you move.
Happening now, state lawmakers are sifting through the details of Governor Cuomo's multi-billion-dollar decision to save 3 failing upstate power plants. The landmark bailout's estimated to cost electricity ratepayers just over $7.5 billion. Opponents say extending the nuclear plants past their primes will burden ratepayers and endanger the surrounding communities. The governor says keeping the plants open will allow the state to rely on nuclear energy sources as New York gears up to switch half of its power to renewable sources by 2030.
A new initiative in New York is aiming to help former inmates get housing. Under this pilot program, housing officials in Schenectady, Syracuse, and White Plains will permit carefully screened former inmates to live with their families in public housing. Right now, many former inmates have to separate from their families because many housing places refuse to provide a place for them to live. Now, Governor Cuomo says stable housing drastically reduces the risk that former inmates will commit another crime.
Tomorrow in D.C., House committees plan to begin voting on the 123-page legislation that would dismantle much of the Affordable Care Act. The GOP replacement plan keeps the most popular parts of the ACA, like maintaining coverage for those with pre-existing conditions and allowing people to stay on their parents' plans until they turn 26. But the ACA relies heavily on subsidies, so Republicans want to phase those out and replace them with refundable tax credits. The Republican plan also gets rid of the individual mandate that requires people to actually buy health insurance. Much more coming up on this story this morning on CBS This Morning.
508 new this morning, Matt Damon has now signed on to be the narrator of the new first full-length documentary film about the Boston Marathon. The producers of the film say the Academy Award-winning actor and Boston native is, quote, the ideal narrator. The film will chronicle the history of marathon. It will touch on the 2013 finish line bombings, but it also focuses on the race that happened the year after. Boston premieres in its namesake city on April 15th, 2 days before the 121st running of the marathon. 508 this morning, we know it will be the Iona Gales representing the MAC in the NCAA tournament a week from now.
Unfortunately, Siena couldn't come up with another incredible victory last night. They lost in overtime to Iona in a thriller. This one stayed tight all the way through overtime. Last night's hero, Nico Clarith, had a chance to put the Gales away with this long three-pointer with just 5 ticks on the clock. He's just a little bit off the mark. Iona knocks off the home team Saints. The Gales now back-to-back MAC champs, and they'll head to the tournament next week.
All right, new this morning, though, after the game, our Upstate Sports Edge crew caught up with some of the Saints. Take a listen.
Started off friends and ended up family. Couldn't ask for a better group of guys to play 4 years to Siena basketball with. I'm happy that we came this far.
Right now it hurts, but I mean, I'm really proud. You know, we fought, we didn't quit.
And that is kind of a bummer after such an emotional game on Sunday night to come up just a little bit short.
Breaks your heart to see
last night. Coming up Friday at 4:30, by the way, the America East Women's Championship game, UAlbany versus Maine. That's in Albany at the CEFCU Arena. More on the men's game coming up later. And adding to pressure to the Trump administration.
What North Korea's latest round of missile tests is forcing the White House to take a closer look at. First, the case's judge Casey Anthony, and now Casey Anthony herself.
What the infamous Florida mother is now saying about her daughter's death.
And starting your day off on a wet note this morning, and in some cases could be a little bit slippery, tracking some freezing rain across the region. I'll tell you when it switches to plain rain and how long that wet weather sticks around for, all coming up straight ahead.
All right, taking you back out live to Troy, where you can see a lot of firefighters still there, keeping an eye on hot spots and making sure everything is under control at a house fire that happened earlier this morning in Troy. We'll show you the video of what it looked like when those flames were roaring earlier this morning.
And we begin with a CBS 6 weather alert, tracking some wet weather to begin your Tuesday. And in some cases, a little bit of freezing rain out there. Let's show you the radar because I've been tracking this wet weather moving in these past few hours. Now, where you're seeing the pink, that's where the freezing rain is coming down, most likely across the higher terrain this morning and these next couple of hours where temperatures are going to be closer to freezing. Immediate capital region, Albany, Schenectady, Troy, up through Half Moon. That is plain rain. We zoom out a little bit and you'll see the Taconics, the Berkshires, portions of the Greens, up through Washington County, portions of Fulton County, seeing a bit of freezing rain. So just be aware some spots could be a little bit slippery. We all switch over to plain rain around daybreak or so and see it continue through the day. Much more though on the timing and when it kicks out of here coming up in your full forecast in 4 minutes. Guys?
Alyssa, thanks. At 5:14, we are still following breaking news out of Troy this morning, where several people are homeless after an early morning house fire.
CBS 6's Carrie Beal is there live where cleanup continues. Carrie, what can you tell us about those cleanup efforts?
Well, Jack, right now the fire is contained, and right behind me here, they are just working on putting out a few hot spots, making sure nothing reignites. It's a very different scene than what it was just a couple hours ago. The Troy Fire Chief tells me that the calls came in around 1 o'clock for this fire, and that after the firefighters had gone in to try to extinguish it, they had to be evacuated because the building was structurally unsound. Luckily, everyone who lived inside did make it out safely and nobody was injured, but they do believe this house is now a complete loss. It is a multi-family home. And coming up in the next 15 minutes, I have an exclusive interview with somebody who lived inside this building and what he describes woke him up. Reporting live in Troy, Carrie Beal, CBS 6 News, back to you.
All right, Carrie, thanks. Time right now, 5:15, and happening now. North Korea's latest volley of missile tests is adding pressure to President Trump's administration to identify how it will counter Kim Jong-un's weapons development. The country's march toward having a nuclear-tipped missile capable of reaching the U.S. mainland is among the pressing national security priorities President Trump is facing. Mr. Trump has vowed such missile capabilities, quote, won't happen, but has yet to really detail a strategy to stop it.
Happening now, U.S. military has started moving equipment for a controversial missile defense system to ally South Korea. The plans to deploy the Terminal High Altitude Area Defense System, or THAAD, have angered not only North Korea but also China, which sees the system's powerful radars as a security threat. South Korea and the U.S. have said they plan to have THAAD up and running by the end of the year.
Tributes continue pouring in the morning in the honor of Robert Osborne. The face of Turner Classic Movies and film expert died yesterday. A cause of death has not been announced. Osborne had been on TCM since it made its debut on air in April of '94. The Washington native moved to Hollywood to pursue a career in acting. He was also known for writing several books on the history of the Academy Awards. He was 84.
New this morning, first it was the judge in the case, and now Casey Anthony is saying she still does not know how the last hours of her daughter's life unfolded. She says she still doesn't know what happened. The last time she saw 2-year-old Kaylee, she, quote, believed she was alive and was going to be okay. The Florida woman, dubbed by cable TV hosts as the most hated mom in America, was found not guilty of killing her daughter, but was convicted of lying to police and spent 3 years in jail. jail. Anthony now lives and works with a private detective who was on her defense team. The detective was also the lead investigator for O.J. Simpson. Anthony says she has become fascinated with that case with parallels to her circumstances.
This morning, 2 court hearings have been rescheduled until next week for the St. Louis man accused of making threats against Jewish institutions nationwide. Juan Thompson was originally scheduled to be in court tomorrow for 2 hearings. One of those will determine if he should be moved to New York, where he'll be facing federal cyber stalking charges. Now both hearings have been delayed until next Wednesday, March 15th, but Thompson will still be in a St. Louis courtroom tomorrow for a hearing to determine if he should remain detained pending trial. A criminal complaint says Thompson started making threats on January 28th with an email to the Jewish History Museum in New York.
5:18 right now, the Trump administration is taking steps to drop the federal government's legal fight against North Carolina's bathroom bill. The Justice Department has written a motion saying it needs time to rethink its 2016 request to halt North Carolina's requirement that transgender people must use restrooms in public buildings that match the sex on their birth certificates. North Carolina residents challenging the current law can still move ahead with a separate lawsuit, but they've lost the help that was provided by federal lawyers.
CBS 6 News, the Weather Authority.
And this morning, tracking some wet weather, which has continuously moved in overnight and will stick around through much of your day today. Plan for a wet start and wet weather lasting all the way through tonight. You're definitely going to want the rain gear as you're leaving the house. Now, temperatures playing a key role in whether or not we're seeing plain rain or freezing rain. Across the higher terrain, we're a little bit closer to freezing. In the valleys, just above freezing with temperatures in the middle 30s. It's 36 right now in Albany. And as we look at the radar here, this is the past few hours as precip just overspread the entire region. It's now pretty wet, pretty much across our whole local area. Seeing some rain in the immediate capital region down through the Mid-Hudson Valley, and it looks to be just plain rain around Albany. We just saw temperatures are above freezing there. West of Albany tracking mostly plain rain as well, although portions of Fulton County seeing a bit of freezing rain. As we zoom in on the capital region, eastern Rensselaer County, you're seeing freezing rain. Plain rain though for Albany, Troy, portions of Schenectady up through Half Moon, and the Taconics and the Berkshires these past couple of hours, you've been seeing freezing rain as well. So be aware that the roads could be a little bit slippery in these locations that have seen the freezing rain. And we're likely going to see all of the showers switching over to plain rain then as we go towards about sunrise. Periods of rain continue pretty much all day long. Here's the bigger picture here. Plenty of rain to our south and west. Cold front is going to swing through a little bit later on today. Actually, it's going to swing through tonight. So the wet weather is going to stick around through tonight, likely pulling on out of here closer to daybreak tomorrow. So 8 o'clock this morning, tracking wet weather across the region. Closer to lunchtime, it's still raining in most cases. And we go through the afternoon, on and off rain and drizzle. Skies overcast and gray. Your ride home tonight is wet in spots. And then the cold front starts to take shape and come through overnight tonight. Now we're at about 4 o'clock in the morning tomorrow. Rain still around, and it may switch over to snow in some cases across the higher terrain as some cooler air moves in and also as our temperatures drop overnight. But it quickly pulls on out of here closer to 7, 8 o'clock tomorrow morning. Then we'll see some more showers by tomorrow afternoon. Rainfall amounts probably going to range from about 1/4 of an inch to, in some cases, closer to 3/4 of an inch. So it's certainly a soaker and going to be a pretty wet day today, and your temperatures likely topping out a little bit above yesterday. Middle to upper 40s for most of the region, but some places south of the Capital District could be approaching 50 this afternoon. North of Albany, I'm expecting temperatures to be in the middle and upper 40s. You can ignore that 34 there for Schenectady because that is clearly not right. Forecasting 47 in the capital region with temperatures by tomorrow in the lower to middle 50s. We do see additional showers in the afternoon. It's windy through the day, and your 7-day forecast then showing a big drop in your temperatures for the end of the work week. Now, Thursday and Friday, dry weather, upper 30s to finish the work week. We go into the weekend, and following an Arctic front at the end of the week, cold air moving in. It's going to be similar to this past weekend. Single digits in the mornings, 20s in the afternoons. Clocks go forward Saturday night before you go to bed, and storm watch up there for Sunday. watching a storm on Sunday that could potentially impact the Northeast, but still just way too far out to really know.
All right, so stay with us. We'll keep you updated day by day as those things change.
A lot happening. All right, a new business venture for Jimmy Buffett.
How the king of laid-back music is giving people a different way to enjoy retirement, plus addressing a common complaint.
How McDonald's is making sure their ice cream machines are working when customers want some soft serve. At 5:26, we're taking a look at some consumer news. McDonald's is taking steps to address a common complaint: broken ice cream machines. The Wall Street Journal reports McDonald's is getting new machines with fewer parts, making them easier to maintain. This comes after several social media posts from customers complaining they went to McDonald's to get some soft serve only to find out the machine was broken. You can't get any more laid back than retirement, so it's fitting the king of laid back music, Jimmy Buffett, is lending his vibe to a retirement community. Latitude Margaritaville, named after Buffett's best known song, will open its first community in Daytona Beach for, quote, those looking to live the Margaritaville lifestyle as they grow older, but not up. Current plans call for walkable neighborhoods, a fitness center, live music, and food and drinks from Buffett's Margaritaville restaurant. Construction has already begun, and the village is slated to open this fall. 5:27, heartbreak in overtime for Siena. We're taking a look at the dramatic finish. An Uber in some hot water, why the company is now under investigation out west.
A house fire in Troy leaves several people homeless. I'm Carrie Beeling. Coming up, we have an exclusive interview with a person who lived inside. He describes that frantic moment when he woke up from the flames.
And you can clearly see there in that shot that the rain is coming down in Troy. Much of the region seeing wet weather and in some cases freezing rain. Tracking it for you coming up in the next half hour.